Honorable Daniels.
Green.
We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries for legislation 0235-20. Thank you. Next, B, legislation 0236-20. Sponsor Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Ms. Begay, would you read that into the record, please?
Mr. Chair, again, this is a legislative tracking number 0236-20. The legislative summary sheet is attached. The date on it is at September 10, 2020. The title of the resolution is an action relating to Resource Development Budget and Finance Committee approving changes in Resolution CAP 3518 Exhibit D number 121 Kalani Lake Chapter New Senior Center Replacement Project by changing the project type from design, construction to plan, design, and construction. The purpose of this resolution is to change the project, and this legislation will be going to B&F, where it will be read fully into the record. The prime sponsor of the legislation is Thomas Walker. You will see that the exhibits are all attached. This packet was posted on the website September 29, 2020, and there is a 5-day comment period on October 4, 2020. No comments received to chair members of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Gay. Honorable members of RDC, let's establish a motion and a second.
Motion, Keelan.
Honorable Begay, second by
Freeland.
Honorable Freeland. Thank you. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, you have the floor, sir.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Nez and RDC members, other staff, and those that are listening to our call here this morning. The legislation is similar to the earlier legislation that my brother T. Allen Begay sponsored, and this is Sehasan project slated for Talani Lake chapter. Talani Lake chapter has a senior center building that the community wanted to renovate or repair with using the Sehasan funds. And then after some work had been put in, the evaluation and assessments and all that, so that's what the community chapter voted to do. That is their request, and through this legislation, we can start that process of replacing the senior center rather than just merely renovating it. That's what this legislation does. I would appreciate your support. The motioning party and seconding party for the Talani Lake community, for the elders and elders that thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Honorable members of RDC, this is also just changing the project. So any questions? None. Honorable Freeland, how do you vote, sir?
Green.
Honorable Stewart? Honorable Keelan Begay? Okay, everybody please mute your phone. Honorable Begay votes green. Honorable Stewart?
Stewart, green. Green, John.
Green. Honorable Vice Chair Walker?
I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Daniels?
Green.
We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries for legislation 0236-20. Thank you. On to C, legislation 0237-20, sponsored by Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So, are you on the line, sir?
Chairman, I'm on the line. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Begay, could you read this legislation in for the record, please?
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I was not able to get a complete copy of this legislation. However, I just pulled the legislation that is posted on the website. I'll read the resolution to you. The exhibits are the huge IRMP binder that was presented to you. And I believe each one of you have received a copy by email. Mr. Chair, I'm going to read the legislative summary sheet and the resolution into the record now. You have a legislative summary sheet for tracking number 0237-20. The date on it is September 28, 2020. Title of the resolution is the proposed standing committee resolution. An action relating to resource development, approving the integrated resource management plan for the former Bennett Freeze area. The purpose of this legislation is to approve the former Bennett Freeze area integrated resource management plan. Prime sponsor of this resolution is Otto So, tracking number 0237-3, an action relating to resource development, approving the integrated resource management plan from the former Bennett Freeze area, be it enacted. Section 1 authority. A, pursuant to 2 NNC Section 500C1, the Resource Development Committee of the Navajo Nation Council has authority over land, environment, environmental protection, cultural resources, to establish Navajo Nation policy with respect to the optimum utilization of all Navajo Nation resources and to protect the rights, interests, and sacred sites, freedoms of the Navajo Nation and people to such resources now and for future generations. B, pursuant to 2 NNC Section 500C2, the Resource Development Committee of the Navajo Nation Council has authority to oversee regulations of activities on Navajo Nation lands for disposition or acquisition of resource, surface disturbance, or alternation of the natural state of the resource, including the enforcement and administration of applicable Navajo Nation federal laws, regulations, guidelines, administrative procedures, and the development and use of resources as a good steward. Section 2 findings. A, in 1934, the federal government added about 234,000 acres to the Western Navajo Agency of the Navajo Nation. In 1966, the Commission of Indian Affairs, Robert Bennett, halted development on 1.6 million acres of Navajo Nation in northeastern Arizona that was claimed by both the Navajo Nation and the Hopi tribe. The ban became known as the Bennett Freeze area. In 2006, the ban was lifted. In 2015, the Navajo Nation Bureau of Indian Affairs signed a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU. The purpose is for the developing and IRMP Integrated Resource Management Plan for the former Bennett Freeze area, FBFA, at the Navajo Nation. Furthermore, this MOU defines the resources to be evaluated, identifies interdisciplinary team members from both the BIA and Navajo Nation, defines roles and responsibilities for each party, and identifies a project time frame. It is in the interest of the Navajo Nation and BIA to provide for a cooperative relationship to develop an integrated resource management goals and policy that will provide direction for the planning and implementation of the IRMP of the FBFA while protecting the environmental and cultural values. The Memorandum of Understanding between the Navajo Nation and the Bureau of Indian Affairs Navajo Regional Office is attached as Exhibit B. The former Bennett Freeze Areas Integrated Resource Management Plan handout dated August 14, 2020 is attached as Exhibit C. B, the former Bennett Freeze Area Integrated Resource Management Plan was completed and is attached as Exhibit A. C, the Navajo Hopi Land Commission supports the initiative and process for fulfilling the FAIRMA as stated in Resolution NHLC S10 2020, which is attached as Exhibit D. The memorandum dated September 10, 2020 from the Navajo Hopi Land Commission to the BIA Regional Director is attached as Exhibit E. Section 3, approval. A, the Resource Development Committee of the Navajo Nation Council hereby approves the former Bennett Freeze Area Integrated Resource Management Plan as Exhibit A. And again, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, the exhibits that are referenced in the content of the legislation was in a big binder that I provided to the Legislative Council during the drafting of the legislation. The Navajo Hopi Land Commission resolution was provided to Legislative Council, and those are the exhibits that are referenced in the content of the legislation. Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you, Ms. Begay. Honorable members of RDC, I'd like to establish a motion and a second.
Motion, this is Daniels.
Honorable Daniels, second by
Stewart.
Honorable Stewart. Honorable So. You have the floor, sir. Chairman So.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much for this legislation to be heard here at Resources and Development Committee meeting. So with that, the legislation had been read into the record, and this is the as it was read into the record. It was for the integrated, approving the integrated resource management plan for the former Bennett Freeze area. And this plan is had been presented to the committee before, related to the comprehensive study for the environmental impact area for the former Bennett Freeze, and it speaks to many different avenues for that region, such as for economic development, community development, and so forth. The Bureau of Indian Affairs has presented to the Navajo Hopi Land Commission, and attached to this document should be a Navajo Hopi Land Commission supporting resolution for the integrated resource management plan, and also a letter that had the 3 council delegates from the former Bennett Freeze writing. A letter was written in the concurrence and the support of the 3 delegates that are directly affected in the former Bennett Freeze area. I just would like to make sure that that statement has been made on the record, that the 3 delegates directly affected by the Bennett Freeze, we do support this integrated management system. With that, do I have my agent, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, on the line?
Honorable Otto So, who from BIA?
Probably Cheryl Curley or the area director, Mr. Stevens.
Okay. Mr. Stevens, are you on the line, sir?
I am on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. You have the floor, sir.
Thanks again for having us. And I'm actually going to divert the details of the BIA to the acting deputy bureau or deputy regional director, Dr. Curley, who has more insight, is also as the division head for natural resources. Dr. Curley.
Dr. Curley, go ahead, sir.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Resource Development Committee members and Chairman Nez. I also would like to thank Delegate Odo So for sponsoring this legislation. And we have spent so many hours, days, and years on this particular project, and looking forward to having it approved. And thank you very much. We did work closely with the Navajo Hopi Land Commission, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Shananta. Chairman Nance, and this integrated resource management plan, like the BIA has indicated, that it had been detailedly conveyed to the committees, especially Navajo Hopi Land Commission, and we had a presentation made to Resources and Development Committee. So this is just a supportive initiative to go ahead and approve this legislation, or to go ahead and have RDC support and approve the former Bennett Freeze Area Integrated Resource Management Plan that BIA has conducted. This plan is still in the midst, in the works. And the next phase will be the public comments, and the additional public outreach will happen after this next phase. And this portion of the oversight to give their blessing for BIA to continue to move down the road to complete their study. All the information related to the study had been forwarded to the committee, and I seen it this morning on the email. It's a 500 plus page document for your review and idea. But we, as the chairman of Navajo Hopi Land Commission and a member, a delegate directly impacted by the former Bennett Freeze, living 100% inside of there and seeing the what people have faced for many years in the former Bennett Freeze. It is a sad history in Navajo. You know, for many years that region, that people that live in the region that were directly affected were told they can't improve their homes or improve their livelihoods so that they could have a better life. Their American dream, that what is supposed to be granted by the United States Constitution, had been put on hold for 4 to 6 years. And they actually lived through it and managed to get to this far, and the freeze has been lifted. And we just want to move forth to try to make sure that we do move forward towards the rehabilitation. And this is one step for the rehabilitation of that former Bennett Freeze, and it impacts 1.6 million acres directly. ko ede hut an kha hinch keto ni ka ad hot chansen ade chinand ko I appreciate the the support that we're getting from the Navajo Nation Council and especially from RDC ko ba keta ni senode ko hun so do chinand yeah.
Thank you, Chairman Otto So. Honorable members of RDC, we did receive reports from BIA back on June 10th and the 16th, as well as July 27th, and I feel we have become very knowledgeable of this legislation that's before us now. Do you have any questions? RDC's final authority on this. None? Yes, Honorable Walker, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Nez and Resource and Development Committee members, so staff. Although delegate so sponsor of this legislation, the IRMP, and then the other your agents also all that is about this. Just mainly in concurrence and in support of the legislation. So the 1.6 million acres of the former Bennett Freeze area, chapters of Christensen, four chapters are within the former Bennett Freeze areas. Just to let committee members know and the listening audience, Talani Lake, Luke, Coal Mine, Cameron, some of the former Bennett Freeze area is situated in those chapters. Even much legislation, so as a nas what is integrated resource management. They quina feda itaido da nida ita ekuteheki bebenda and shkeya shkedo da nida these are the contemporary tools that Indian nations use and Navajo Nation ibani kai idit bez an do not sos keya not le ka keya bebgi this in a keya ba haya so the former Bennett Freeze area a kojoye ba haya do this troje ban sa keso troje a tilzen hadn't get out okay ya do nans that hegi to do says do had she you can't da kai ka da hinanigi not agi that hegi not close fishing it also jibe ba ya keya kinal so sigi could shin keya not lo it all this bijin kidi ka cho no ko that she when clo skin photo and let in daga when clo dot net abahan net out net ya yashin what I when either this la na go nasko she but that needs needed chinanta ko quite candy Resource and Development Committee members ko ado touch Navajo Hopi Land Commission ajudo atra na atra peshpas and stodati keya ba when ingi Navajo Hopi Land issues ajudo keya pa sa lo e methodologies and leko ado keya gi hatzo ta ya kin his an de holia said anche ni je honalia ko that out a attribute neat in Bishwas and for the Navajo Nation and then for the Navajo Nation Council. I got D quite also Aniki Edo Incidentio a Delia. I got echo Edo a Lado what Edo Lichudahiti me. Ako she get delegate so yayi salim. Kaya she bakash le ito san gilbahazan dole. At dito tsaga hot no khanati khata. That the pandemic ben safety ben social distancing that no ako atlada sanashta atla another zigi biye. Ako haya shat onje bakhan le toshin ashin nas be ilniki ide yisa choda hiti ni tsalin ko. Ako ide chan gilbahazan dole ko a large beds or zingishin to that's not even a question. It's just the fact that we need to get this document. It did have a timeline, as indicated by the presenter, though, the BIA, in the earlier presentations. So, timeline. So I just ask for your support, and Mr. Chair, thank you for this time.
Thank you very much, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Let me go back to Honorable So. Chairman So.
Chairman, although Resources and Development Committee members no klinige. No here none hashin so chanaho aige. The kaya hiskin ninige lede ya da no. 9 chapters were directly affected as the 1882 executive order was established. And the northwest corner of the 1882 executive order. Due west, towards the Grand Canyon, the Navajo, the southwestern portion of the 1882 executive order. Due west as the Navajo on the west boundary. That's the size of the former Bennett Freeze area that was directly impacted. There's 3 delegates that represent the region there. And those honorable delegates are Honorable Paul Begay, which consists of Tonalea chapter, a small portion of Kabato chapter, and a small portion of Coppermine chapter, and then half of the chapter of Gapna, Nokeya Hotapi Sa'a. Adon the Honorable Thomas Walker, Tanani Lake, Aje with Ego, Yana, Adon the loop chapter, Hashin Sobe, Hotapi He Adon the chapter of Cameron chapter, Adon the coal mine chapter is 100% directly affected in the former Bennett Freeze. Adon that there's my chapter of Tuba City, which is also 100% affected by the former Bennett Freeze when the freeze was imposed. A tanil ego a bishmas an ade bin ade the neba baneta alcohol a bag of gods yego ade anda his it ati. Washington lini ni kosikides ezo la nachai ni higan aro el cheda enen hitini tona dol tihikido ajo tikhatili akongo dan sa kese. The federal government has imposed and mandated that no Navajo citizen living in that area would be eligible to improve their livelihood, their homes, infrastructure. Yego hot ego, istik ade. Akonde, dideko ni tato ni tanige ya. It's one of the first steps to begin the lively to added in that ket in hadit egota. Be in nahito nahliki kaige ya but kage salaha ki ya di ashnant Beben nachet lene nechet nase Hoan had la pohnet sanit ego high lando ni. Had la yat eho aro la anal yehbet hadahat because ago atahat ni economic development zone. Had shla todo nda kondo ton chom cheda slindo ton choda atahat ni. Hagel halat nan da hiton ne. Het ego bedak ebelin da has ani bekhada hada dolni. Het ego go be inna banal tloshine legni. Akwage ye hajoye atti khahre dolni ye nache. Ako het ego be ad da shinsago ben nache tite be has ani kahligi be ben nache chon will ye be that neat. As a child, I always wondered
No,
why.
I don't have anything further.
As a child, I wondered why we couldn't make these improvements. And I looked out to other regions of the Navajo Nation, such as Chinle. I looked at Eastern Agency, Northern Fort Defiance. The Nahashin Bech Aid Ego Atikata Hatil Obel Nahaljish. I go Atish Ting. Pa yego pa kutani zi ba benache doko. Dina the nan lini ake ini payat shenant That chedna ake ini payat ako yisi hot be nash onkodo o be daton ni arba hen shenant resources and development committee members no kliniki ba benash hot when so hot nicht oli. Ano ba hen shenant jo ade ni ka do cha shonte ade neke ini ade ego da be inna jo nada di yeto be khada hat di ni be ben nach jo ye nach ego da hando khan shenant so hado le ke.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. So, Nanta, any other comments, questions?
Chair,
Honorable, who's this?
Chair Paul Begay. This is Delegate Paul Begay.
Okay. Delegate Begay, go ahead.
I'll wait in line.
Okay. Go ahead, Honorable Begay, and then I'll go to Honorable Daniels.
Chair, Brother Honorable Delegate Ricky Ness, Chair Lindy, Auto Vice Chair, Auto Committee members, Chair. Ahada Sada Behatio, Benacha Nahan Sakis, Alani Danila, Alani Illing, Besta Illing, the Naya Lacho Honsunta, Ako even Nacha Kota Hasi, Tolikoani. Yegon hit Nahoti on Kilhaz. Aslatino on Hinach, I could egon hit need in Abitur Nahotiko. Because oh, candy kai, Nahal can't do kai, Nasa that is Nisida. The Naya Benach, Yanana Teo. Yanana Catole, but Jay, I see Yegodas, the Conzago, Arcat Egon, Madon, his Jen, his Shane, Hinalia. You need you need the how long got there. Needs a nahas got there. Arati action need Klingito, it's all Kebanel Kenny, Klingit Akut Elbit Nanika. We must stop this this extension of grief for these people.
Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Paul Begay. Second, Tladla. And Honorable Daniels.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know Kododam. Resources and Development Committee. Yeah, Kododam. I don't know Kodod legislation Kodod. Nihitanin Sozo, in a great dam. And the hot each Kododam. Hadan Sobe, Kodo, State Hadon, Miso, Adon Dam. How one that, I drove it how ye don't on a basic sheet. Nathan Leho, Kodo, with that egg, Kodo, that Sosagi, but the net on a key at that Kodo. In the land, so like Baba, that Bahadalia Kodo. I don't know Kodona Great Dam. Chanil Ekodota, RDC, and Hart Hanigi Aje Dam, Navajo Hopi Land Commission. Aje, Dan Hart Hanko should say, Key Ellen, I don't know Kododam. Should say down at Dam, Vice Chair Walker, Azra Beltan Hashtanko Hodo. Adonana Kodo had need I need Dan Nikodoshan and I Yada Zigi Kododam. Should say Kodota, Chairman So. Yayaki Kodo, Ani, what I ye got in the hot or Ecuador. Adonana Kodo, my brother Kodo, that delegate public gay. Yahat Zigi Kodo, Yani, what Ecuador. So, Ray Aden Jaga age or East Ecuador. Bahosins and let the neck head at indicate Bahosins and Leho. So, Kodota, I had the need as Kodo Shaint over Banas for these names of Kodo and Raven Aja there. But I in this store, let's Kodo, the Hadan. So, Doshi is kind of the Hadon Nation lead, the Quisi date of Scar Adishi, the Kodo, I see Kodo. They don't segregate Ecuador, they could have a job when the gate based sheet at that, toward that, how one that, but done that, I don't want that, or less or that, got that. Yet, got make it eat or less or that, and he could educate with any guitar. A cordic, that down for the one to get the based sheet and it or toward that she had done, like what else she done there? He can't job by ins and so that did. So, a day I could I see by. Baba na Oshkato Leko Arunana Kodona Great Dam. There's 9 chapters in the former Benefits area. Arunana Chajogay in PL. A Kodona Great Dam. Navajo partitioned land. A Nagata shot towards Adonan Sapi Kendo BB Uncle. So 2 of my chapters, A and NPL, Navajo partitioned land BB Meleko. So I what Ecuador Great Dam. And I had job by in the court. I think Kodo any bahat digita Kodona great basic sheet toda that eggy wonder. I wonder but done that the dot asha that egeta. The cadets ill then a great figure how Danjugo. Eco a Hadashi Kodo Eba I see but Kodo that Bahajo by instance. So ARJ the great NPL residents and Lenigi homes in families in NPL areas. According to the say key element to ARJ them. I think to ARJ NPL, but the chapters like what I don't know Kodona Great Navajo Land Commission could not any ARJ and hard taco. A Kodona Great set up Baba and first case in the Great Dam. Nagaki Toranesh Kenta, Aaron, the Nagay Chibi to AJNPLB. There's no representative from the area. So could legislation Japan sort of order or Yao and the Great Office of Legislative Council. Of course, I see how to say now, but the great in a great Navajo Land Commission, maybe at their next meeting, she don't about this. They could all 81 talk. I don't know. Additionally, I think could them natural binds in the geek could able to Bacadi was could I don't know. Could head Hamilton. I am resources in the development committee lead and Nakat in the gate. What I could I the Baban Zakke, so what I in Hawan Seneca and the great grassroots at the grassroots level, chapter level, and that's EGJ, I see by bias, what I have Seneca, other sounds of Seneca. A call 8 year Kodo, what Baba has said on this Kodo, I am in support of this legislation, Kodo, Chair. 8 year, whatever they say. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Let me go back to Honorable Paul Begay, so he could finish his statement. Are you on the line?
Yes.
Go ahead.
In with committee members, so I don't we're all in this together to help each other. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Begay. Honorable members of RDC, any comments, questions? Then, thank you. Honorable Freeland, how do you vote, sir? Honorable Stewart, how do you vote?
Green tonight.
Honorable Begay, he votes green. He just texted me. Honorable Vice Chair Walker.
I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Daniels.
I vote in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland. We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting. Motion carries for legislation 0237-20. Thank you, Honorable Chairman So.
Thank you very much. Resource and Development Committee. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're down to D, approving it to schedule a follow-up leadership meeting with Navajo Nation Gaming Enterprise and the Board of Directors. Recommended date is October 16, which is on a Friday at 9 o'clock. I'd like to establish a motion and a second.
Chair, I motion.
Chair, motion for the 16th.
Honorable Walker motions. Honorable Stewart, would you like to second?
Yes, that'll be fine.
Okay. Any questions for that date?
Chairman Keelan.
Okay. Keelan?
Chairman, I know my apology. I voted in favor. I did send a text on the last legislation, but we thank you, RDC members and everyone else. Gaming, you know that there's an email coming from one of our colleagues, Chairman. Possibly during the presentation, maybe invite the council to participate or listen in to get an update regarding the situation. So that's my request, if you could be able to provide invite to all the council members to get an update directly from the Gaming Commission and the administration. Chairman.
That sounds good. We'll do that. Ms. Begay, would you send that invite to all the council members on the 16th?
Mr. Chair? Mr.
Yes.
Chair? Just letting you know that there's going to be a change of the date for the meeting because we just moved the Navajo Nation Farm Board to the 16th. So if your schedule is okay for the 19th, we can put Navajo Gaming Enterprise leadership meeting on the 19th. Ashbiga.
We had an executive session meeting, which we can't discuss, so we have to do it sooner. So we may have to switch out the 16th and have it on the 16th.
Okay. Why don't we move the, the farm board. Let me work with Department of Agriculture and I'll get this back on the agenda, the farm board leadership meeting back on the agenda for next week, Wednesday. I will have a definite date when we can have that meeting, okay? So
thank you.
We can just keep Navajo Gaming on the 16th.
16th. Okay. Honorable members of RDC, any questions, comments? None. Honorable Freeland, how do you vote, sir? Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Honorable Begay?
Chairman Keelan votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Walker?
I vote green.
Thank you.
Honorable Daniels,
I vote green.
Honorable Freeland. We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting. Motion carries. We'll have the gaming enterprise and our board of directors meeting on the 16th at 9 a.m. Thank you. E, leadership meeting. We need to approve this with the Division of Natural Resources and Department of Agriculture in reference to grazing officials meetings that we conducted. We need a written report as well as an in-depth discussion and share these information with our grazing officials. So we can approve it and find a date. Ms. Begay, would like to have a motion, please.
Motion, Keelan.
Honorable Begay, motion, second by.
I'll second.
Honorable Stewart. Any questions, comment? Ms. Begay, could you find a date for this? We'll approve it and get a date on this.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? None. None. Honorable Freeland, how do you vote? Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Honorable Keelan Begay?
Chairman, I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Vice Chair Walker?
I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Daniels?
I vote in favor.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland? We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting for the DNR Department of Agriculture leadership meeting. Thank you. We're done with new business. And we'll go back to receiving reports. We have 2 reports. The first one is update report, which we were conducting back on the 30th, last Wednesday. And we would like to finish that report. And let me have Mr. Begay come and also Mr. Stevens complete that report. You have the floor, Mr. Begay and Mr. Stevens. Mr. Begay? Mr. Richard Begay? Okay, Mr. Richard Begay, third call. Let's go to B, update report of the TTP Strategic Plan, 10 Tribes Partnership of the Colorado River Basin. Presenters, Daryl Vihil, Matt McKinney, Crystal Tully Cordova, and Jason Johns. Honorable members of RDC, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Iacco, can you hear me?
Hi, Chairman. We are having technical difficulties. Our internet is, we're having interference, so there are callers that are trying to get back on the line. So I believe Mr. Begay is one of them, just an update.
Okay, so we'll go on to B then. Thank you. Is Mr. McKinney on the line? And Crystal?
Yes,
and Jason John? You all have the floor. Mr. McKinney?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee and other participants. This is Matt McKinney. I'm with the Water and Tribes Initiative. My colleague Daryl Vihil had to jump to another meeting a little bit ago. He may get back on the line if possible here shortly. Can I just check real quick to see if Crystal and or Jason is on the line?
Yes. Crystal, Mr. John, are you on the line?
Maybe not. Okay, that's fine. So what I'll try and do is, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay by you, is provide a brief update, not more than 10 minutes, in terms of where the strategic plan is at with respect to the 10-tribe partnership. And then if there are questions or comments, happy to respond to those as best I can, if that's okay. 10 minutes okay?
Yes, 10 minutes is fine. Thank you.
Okay. I think you all should have received copies of two documents. One is a draft of the strategic plan itself, the 10-tribe partnership strategic plan. It's 25 pages or so long. And then there was also a set of PowerPoint slides that went along with that. And what I'm going to do is just refer to the PowerPoint slides to make this a little more efficient. First of all, I just want to say up front how much I appreciate and really am honored to be able to participate in your meeting and to listen in, even though I don't understand all of what's going on because you're speaking your native tongue, but nevertheless, it's quite educational and affirming. So a year ago, you might remember Daryl and I visited you in Chambers to talk about the 10-tribe partnership. The partnership is composed of the 10 tribes that have settled water rights along the Colorado River. That, of course, includes the Navajo. And we went around and we talked to tribal leaders from 8 of the 10 participating tribes to develop the strategic plan. And so what I want to do is just highlight a couple of things for you in terms of the strategic plan as a draft going forward, and then to present a couple of recommendations from Daryl and I based on what we heard from tribal leaders across the board. So if you have that hard copy or whatever of the PowerPoint, I'm going to refer to a couple of pages in there, and it might be helpful if you can flip to those. So first of all, if you flip to slide number 8, so this is one called Action Plan, Priority Goals and Potential Actions. And there were basically four issues or goals that came out of the mix after we talked to all of the various tribal leaders in terms of areas to focus on over the next 3 to 5 years for the partnership. The first one is to participate in a meaningful, effective way in developing the next set of guidelines for operating the Colorado River. That process is likely to commence sometime next calendar year. Could be early, could be the middle of the year, not really sure. But anyway, now is the time to get ready for that. So that's kind of goal number 1. 2 is to secure funding to develop and use tribal water. Again, a sort of a common need and interest we heard across the board. The third one is to set priorities and take action based on the tribal water study. The tribal water study was completed a number of years ago, provides a ton of information on all 10 tribes, and it really lays out a very robust agenda. And to date, there's not been a lot of activity focused on trying to implement any of those actions in the tribal water study. And so a number of tribal leaders said, you know, we have this action plan already in place, being the tribal water study. Let's use that. Let's, set some priorities and get going on a couple of things. And then the fourth piece is to foster communication, understanding, and partnerships based on the realization that tribes, are not in the Colorado River Basin alone, that there's any one of a number of states and other partners to potentially work together around issues of common interest. And so that was, those are kind of the 4 goals that emerged during the various interviews that we had with tribal leadership. And then if you flip to the next slide, number 9, operating plan and budget, this is more the how. So if that earlier slide on priority goals and potential actions is the what, this is the how to get it done. And we have recommendations on staffing, leadership, operations, organizational structure, and budget and funding options. So if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll just continue on to the next slide and quickly highlight the various recommendations and then see if there's any discussion or questions, if that's okay.
Yes, go ahead, sir. Continue.
Okay. So jumping to slide number 10, the first recommendation was basically to continue along with the existing vision and mission statements of the partnership, which if you have that longer document, I believe the existing vision and mission statement are presented on page 6. And they provide, the tribal leaders that we talked to basically affirm that they provide sufficient guidance and direction for the partnership. So our recommendation is sort of leave that alone and let's sort of focus on other things. The vision and mission are fine. The second recommendation I just talked about in terms of those 4 priority goals, and maybe perhaps with some refinement, that those would be the areas to focus on for the partnership to focus on over the next 3 to 5 years. And then the third recommendation is somewhat related to that, which is to say that 10 Tribe Partnership staff, most of which is volunteer, I should say all of it is volunteer staff at this point, which we'll talk about more in a minute, should develop an annual work plan to clarify specific tasks and activities and deliverables to achieve each one of those goals. So again, this is kind of a step out into a new thing for the partnership. They've never really had work plans before, but the degree to which there's agreement on the goals, then the recommendation here is to develop a work plan that clarifies how we're going to move in any given year toward those particular goals. So jumping to the next slide, and I suppose if anyone wants to interrupt me, Mr. Chairman, that would be perfectly fine if there's a comment or a question, because I realize I'm throwing a lot of information at you quickly. But
sir,
jumping to the...
Let me establish a motion and a second first. That way, as you go along, they can ask questions if they should need to. Honorable members of RDC, could you, let's establish a motion and a second.
Motion, Sinai.
Honorable Stewart.
Motion,
second by Honorable Keel and Begay, second. Honorable members of RDC. So if you do have a question as Mr. McKinney is going down the presentation, just go ahead and jump in and ask your question. Go ahead, Mr. McKinney.
Okay. I think I'm up to slide 11. So 2 recommendations, one related to staffing, one related to leadership. With respect to staffing, my colleague Daryl Vigil is currently serving basically as a voluntary temporary executive director. Daryl works, as I think you might remember, with the Jicarilla Apache Nation as their water administrator, and their president and council have basically donated some of Daryl's time to serve in that capacity. But we heard loud and clear from tribal leadership that the degree to which the partnership is going to effectively grow into itself and be more effective, that we need basically more staffing. We need more backbone support. And so in various conversations, we talked about different options about hiring full-time or even part-time staff, or potentially hiring an individual or a team of folks that could come in more in a consulting capacity, but serve as a bit of a secretariat and provide that kind of leadership and backbone support. And so the recommendation here is to do the latter, which is to say, let's walk before we run. Let's reach out and find the right person or persons that can provide that kind of directorship, secretariat, whatever you want to call it, for the partnership for some period of time. And then as the partnership demonstrates success and the need to sort of move from basically a consultant to a more permanent staffing arrangement, that we would cross that bridge when we get to it. So that's the staffing recommendation. The leadership recommendation is basically just that, and again, I mean, keeping in mind all these recommendations grow out of conversations with tribal leaders from the 8 tribes that we talked to. But the idea here is that tribal leaders should meet face-to-face with each other at least once a year to approve an annual work plan, to monitor progress, and otherwise provide guidance and direction. And in a word, I think the sort of spirit of this particular recommendation was ownership. That tribal leadership really felt like they wanted to reestablish a sense of ownership in the partnership, in the direction of the partnership, in the work of the partnership. And so that's our recommendation on how to do that. So moving on to slide 12, I've got just a couple more minutes here. So slide 12, the 6th recommendation has to do with operations. And in the longer document itself, in the draft plan itself, there are basically 6 different topics under operations. One has to do with staff meeting on a more regular basis with the chair and the vice chair, which doesn't really happen right now. And so there's not a lot of continuity, not a lot of direction. Another one has to do with how we go about building and implementing agendas, because a number of tribal leaders, the feedback was, it seems like the partnership is meeting for the sake of meeting, which obviously is not a very productive thing to do. And so they wanted to see more robust, more sort of more meat on the bones, if you will, in terms of the agenda. So anyway, there's a set of recommendations under operations. The 7th recommendation around organizational structure has to do with whether to continue the partnership as an ad hoc arrangement, or whether it's time to move in the direction of trying to create a sort of a formal legal structure. And again, we heard time and again from tribal leadership, let's not go down the path of spending too much time and effort thinking about structure. Let's focus more on working together and getting some things done. And then if we, over the next 3 to 5 years, if we demonstrate that there's value in what we're doing, that we can then move into a discussion about organizational structure, a legal structure, whether that's a 501c3 or some other form of legal structure. And so the recommendation here is just to continue to operate as an ad hoc arrangement. And then lastly, and then I'll be done, on slide 13, recommendation 8 focuses on the budget. Again, it's going to be hard to do much in terms of moving the partnership forward without some kind of a budget. And the recommendation here is sort of twofold. One is that the chair and the vice chair work with the staff to develop an annual budget that's consistent with and designed to implement the annual work plan. So you've got a work plan, and then you use that to build a budget. And then in terms of revenue, a number of tribal leaders expressed an interest and a commitment that it's really important, in the spirit of ownership, that the tribes step forward and provide at least 1/2 of the revenue needed to support, if it's a 25% FTE consultant or whatever it's going to be, to sort of help make this thing work, that the tribes step forward and collectively contribute 1/2 of that revenue, and then seek some kind of a grant, whether that's from the Bureau of Reclamation, maybe another federal agency, or some kind of a philanthropic foundation that would be basically serve as a match for the tribal participation. The tribal leaders, a number of tribal leaders, were very insistent about sort of having skin in the game and having that sense of ownership in terms of the tribes actually putting money on the table, so to speak. So I know that was fast and furious, and I apologize for that, but you do have a draft of the longer strategic plan. Our hope, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, is to get some feedback on these recommendations. We will be discussing this again at the 10-Tribe Partnership meeting next week. And then our hope and plan is to get sufficient feedback from you all as well as other tribal leaders so that we can finalize the plan and then present it at the December meeting of the partnership for consideration and adoption, either at the December meeting or at the following meeting, which would be in February 2021. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that's the presentation. Happy to try and answer any questions or respond to any comments.
Thank you, Mr. McKinney. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any questions, comments? And /Nidoskin, this 10 Tribes Partnership report, update report. And thank you, Mr. McKinney, for the report. We'll definitely study the PowerPoint presentation that you provided us, that we have before us as well.
Okay.
There's no other
and
question.
Just to remind, I think you know, but Jason, John, and Crystal are very intimately involved in all of this. So obviously they would be able to answer questions as well.
Thank you, Mr. McKinney. Honorable members of RDC, any questions? None? Okay.
Chairman Nez,
sir?
this is Crystal Cooley Cordova.
Okay.
And I just wanted to extend to the RDC members, if there are any questions regarding this, I'm happy to answer them. I know our director, Jason John, is very busy with concentration on CARES Act, but if there's anything that the members of RDC have questions about with regard to the 10 Tribes Partnership, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I can share an email after this so that you have my contact information. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tully Cordova. When is the meeting that Mr. McKinney is referencing, and where?
There's a Zoom, I don't know if it's a Zoom meeting or just a conference call, Mr. Chairman, next Wednesday morning. That's a regularly scheduled 10 Tribe Partnership meeting. And then the one where the strategic plan will be considered for adoption will be sometime in December. I want to say it's the second Wednesday of the month, every other month. And so it'll be in December.
Thank you. Ms. Yako? Ms. Yako?
I didn't realize that's supposed to update. So I'm like, moving people around.
Hi, good morning, Chair, members of RDC. This is Melinda. I actually do have just a quick question for the presenters. How well does the the 10 Tribes Partnership work with the overall FACA group, the Federal Advisory Group, in regards to the Glen Canyon Adaptive Management Program?
That's a good question. I'm familiar with that, but I'm not exactly, I honestly don't know. I've never actually heard, and I've sat in for the past couple, 3 years on meetings with the 10 Tribe Partnership, and I don't recall ever that topic ever being addressed at one of their meetings. So my guess is the interaction is limited, but I would not go very far based on my observation. I've never heard of anyone talking about the adaptive management group.
Thank you, Mr. McKinney. Honorable members of RDC, any other questions? None. Honorable Freeland, how do you vote? Honorable Stewart?
3.
Honorable Begay?
Agree.
Honorable Vice Chair Walker? Honorable Daniels? Honorable Vice Chair Walker? Honorable Daniels? Honorable Freeland? Honorable Vice Chair Walker? Honorable Daniels, Honorable Freeland, I understand that Honorable Freeland's on the road, as well as Honorable Daniels. So let me try one more time. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote? Honorable Daniels, Honorable Freeland, Honorable members of RDC, Honorable Begay, and Honorable Stewart, we lost quorum, so we may have to add these last two topics onto the next agenda. Ms. Begay, any recommendations? Ms. Begay, if you could unmute.
Chair, members of the committee, I forgot to unmute myself. I was talking to myself here. You've lost a quorum. I just texted the committee members, letting them know that we're voting. If no one responds in a minute or two, we can certainly add this item back onto the agenda at the next meeting for approval. Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Thank you, Ms. Begay. Let me go one more time. Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Honorable Herman Daniels. Honorable Freeland. No response, Sananda. It is currently 12:21 p.m. We cannot continue any further without a quorum, so we're going to have to end our meeting at this time. Thank you very much. You all be safe. We'll add the rest of the reports to the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.